Thank you for joining us, everyone. As a reminder, we're recording this meeting tonight, and we'll post the meeting and materials and the video to our project website. This is our July 14th, 2022 Filtration Project Neighbor Information Meeting, and my name is Benita Oswald, and I coordinate the communications for the Filtration Project, including meetings like this one. And on our agenda this evening, we'll begin with a brief update from Program Deputy Director Michelle Cheek. Then we'll shift to Construction Manager John Johnson, who will talk about our construction planning for the planned filtration facility. But I will also note that John couldn't hear us a little while ago, so hopefully he's got those technical problems resolved by then. But even if he doesn't, we'll just give him some hand signals to let him know that it's his turn. He can still talk with us, but we may have to walk him through some of the changes with the audio. But as usual, we'll save a portion of the meeting for questions and comments and leave you with a quick reminder of what we're planning at our next meeting. But before we get into all of that, I do want to remind you that email is the best way for us to get information to you. So please help us keep you and your neighbors informed and spread the word and to sign up for our e-news. Also, if you have questions or comments about the project, you can send those through our comment box on our website or through our email, but both of those addresses are at the bottom of the slide. So now I will turn it over to Michelle to give us a program update.
Thanks, Bonita. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming out tonight, or thanks for coming to your computer tonight. Before I turn the screen over to John, I'll kick off tonight's meeting with some quick updates on the filtration project progress. We are finalizing our fiscal year 21-22 annual report to council, and we'll be presenting this to council later this month, and this is currently scheduled for July 27th. Our designers have been hard at work progressing the design of the filtration facility and pipelines. We're fast approaching the 90% design on the filtration facility and just reached our 60% design milestone for the pipelines. We're continuing to work on our land use applications for both Multnomah County and Clackamas County. We're also on track to meet our second compliance milestone with the Oregon Health Authority when we'll submit our filtration facility design to OHA for their review in October. Next slide. So recall we initiated the land use permitting process with Multnomah County with our pre-application conference on April 28th. Now we're preparing for our Multnomah County land use submittal later this summer. Once the application is submitted to the county and deemed complete, it will undergo review by the county as well as a public comment period, followed by the county hearings officer decision. And more information on the actual land use process can be found on the county's website, which there is a link to in the slide. Excuse me. We will be doing some groundwater drilling at the site in August. This work will take place in multiple locations on the site and will inform the dewatering design and methods for use during construction. The drilling itself is expected to take 1 to 2 weeks and will be followed by 2 to 3 months of monitoring and data collection. And updates related to this activity can also be found on our website, and there's a link there on the slide as well. And then next slide, looking into the future, here's a reminder on our good neighbor commitments for construction. We're committed to the safety of the community and workers and minimizing disruption to neighbors, homes, and businesses. And to meet this commitment, we have several strategies in place, including reducing traffic impacts through thoughtful sequencing of construction activities, providing state signage regarding temporary lane closures or detours. We'll be maintaining access to homes and also maintaining access for emergency vehicles during construction. We'll be putting methods into place to reduce off-site sound impacts from construction activities. We'll be working with local authorities to understand maintenance and restoration needs for local roads used during construction. And we'll also be providing advance notice to neighbors of any changes in work hours. And with that, I will turn it over to John Johnson, I think, if his audio is working, to talk more about how we're planning for facility construction.
Okay, thank you. Still having some technical difficulties. So maybe we can, he sees his side, maybe he can.
I just chat him up,
Okay,
maybe. John, we can hear some.
you hear us yet, John?
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I can't hear you right now.
Mhm.
Having some technical difficulties. I apologize for that. But I thought I could multitask and actually get my kid to karate and take a meeting in my car while I was waiting for him to get done. Lesson learned that even though stuff works all the time, it doesn't work when you need it, right? So right now I'm trying to use my phone and for my audio. But if there's questions coming in, I think we'll probably have to type them into the chat. But this is a little bit weird not being able to hear anybody, but we're going to roll right into it. So planning for facility construction, obviously, with these meetings and other activities and outreaches and conversations that we're having with a lot of folks around, we're keeping the ongoing communication and outreach to site neighbors and local businesses. We're trying to develop the overall schedule and sequencing of work in coordination with the pipelines. So as we all know, there's two big pieces of this program, and that's partially the pipelines and also the facility. And the pipelines are going to be a big part of what a lot of people are going to see because it's going to be on the roads more than likely. The facility, of course, is going to be a little less intrusive because it's going to be located and focused mainly on the site. We're doing our best to identify construction safety measures and other best practices to limit disruptions, of course. And we're taking your input and direction and advice as best we can to incorporate that into our plans and things moving forward. Next slide. Some of the questions that we're getting from a lot of folks are how long will construction last? What types of construction will happen when? So taking that question first, how long will construction last? We're hopeful that construction will last around 4 years, plus or minus, 6 months, maybe a year. So we're planning to start sometime in 2023, mid to early 2023, and then go through the end of potentially 2027. So as we showed before, there's a kind of a bell curve of construction where there's going to be a slow start, a kind of a significant ramp up to a high level of activity, and then a drop off actually fairly quickly after that big high point to where we start to taper down and go into activities like startup and commissioning or landscaping and et cetera. It's kind of hard to tell exactly what types of construction will happen when, but we'll start with a lot of earth moving at the very beginning, potentially move into like concrete and building construction, taper off with final restoration type activities like final grading, landscaping, paving, etc. So as we said a moment ago, construction is expected to start in mid 2023, mid to early 2023, probably not any earlier than May or so, and then go through September or so of 2027. There may be activities that exceed the 2027 date, but those should be fairly minor in nature, like I said, landscaping and etc. Pipeline construction is also supposed to overlap with a lot of those activities. As we can see there, the dark blue and the light green are the facility and the pipeline construction. Thanks. Next slide. Types of construction. I think we've shown this slide before, but initially there's going to be some earthwork to get the site ready, followed by concrete. Then moving into mechanical and electrical work, mostly indoors. Mechanical works could be piping, pumps, and obviously electrical would be the electrical wiring and gear and stuff like that. And finally, once the buildings are there, the facilities are mostly built, we're going to do startup and commissioning, which involves turning everything on, checking everything out, making sure everything works properly. Early steps to get ready for construction. So we're going to need to set up some construction trailers to give the people that are going to be working and managing out there some access or some places to have lunch or to have their offices, etc. We may build earthen berms around the site or around certain areas of the site to help control noise, potentially screen views of obtrusive views of construction activities that may be going on. We're going to put erosion control and et cetera in to make sure that our grading that we're going to do, the excavation work and et cetera, is clean. So that none of the soil or none of the dust and et cetera leaves the project site. Potentially stormwater facilities that are going to capture the water that's going to be, rainwater essentially is going to be running across some of our exposed soils, capture that and treat that to make sure it's clean before it goes on its merry way. And after that, we're going to probably begin initial excavation for the structures and the facilities, the actual filtration facilities. Next slide. So we've got two proposed construction accesses to the site. Obviously, we've got Carpenter Lane, and then we've got another proposed access that'll go directly south from the site down to Bluff Road over near the school. We're always going to be very cognizant and aware of maintaining clean streets, clean roads, making sure that we're using street sweepers around the area, making sure that we use street sweepers and things like wheel washes and water trucks on site to keep, make sure that we're not having a lot of dust or mud, et cetera, leaving the site. We're going to have some security on site to make sure that the site is secure, make sure that people in the area are comfortable with the activities that are going on. And then obviously with the truck traffic that's anticipated and the other vehicle traffic that's anticipated, we'll put temporary offsite signage for traffic routes and notifications to make sure the public and everybody is aware of how things are moving. Next slide. So with that, I have got my phone hooked up and I'm called into the meeting, but I'm in the waiting room. If Aubrey can let me in, potentially I can hear questions if they come in.
All right, so I'll facilitate these questions. Does anybody have questions or comments about anything that Michelle or John has said this evening?
If not, I'm feeling a little bit silly here, and I apologize to everybody for the lack of sound on my end, but hopefully Dave or others can answer any questions that may come up.
All right, anybody? Let John know that we are listening for questions now.
I've got a question.
Yeah.
Hello?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. This is
Okay.
Sam Dyack. Can you hear me?
Yes, I
I've
can
got a
hear you.
question. Will there be an on-site batch plant for all this concrete that needs to be poured for the project? Or will this all be hauled in by truck?
So you said, so an on-site bath plant is what you're asking, or batch plant?
I'm asking how all
Yeah.
the concrete for this, which is going to be probably 30 to 40,000 cubic yards of concrete, how is it going to get there if you're not going to have an on-site batch plant
Okay, so I'm gonna.
by road?
I see
ahead.
John, looks like you're in now. Can you hear us, John? Oh, now we can't hear you. You're on mute
No.
on your other phone. You're on mute both.
Okay, now there we go. How about that?
Okay, so Sam is asking if there will be an on-site batch plant for the concrete, or how are we getting all this concrete to our facility site?
Yeah, the plan currently is to have all the concrete. I'm hearing a lot of feedback, sorry.
You're
You're
muted
not
now.
answering my question.
Sorry, go ahead again, Sam.
My question has not been answered. How will that concrete get on site if it's not an on-site batch plant? Will it be by concrete trucks carrying 9 yards at a time?
Yeah.
Hello?
He's trying to answer, but he's having a little technical difficulties. So can you hear us okay still, John?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, Sam. That's how this concrete will get there. It'll be in concrete trucks, looks like you'd normally see it, 9 or 10, or sometimes they do have larger concrete trucks at the time. But yes, that's the plan, is to bring all of the concrete from an offsite batch plant like Glacier or Cal Portland and truck it on the site and place it, and then the truck will leave and go get another load.
Wow. Well, all I can say is I think the number of truckloads that are going to be traveling to the site are going to be a big factor in any environmental impact statement that anybody wants to bring up. I mean, this is an incredible amount of trips.
It will be a lot of trips for sure.
Oh, okay, thank you, Jonathan. I mean, I was just stunned when I did a calculation of just the walls and the base, not including the coverings of these pits, going on the basis of a 2-foot thick pour, and I understand some of them will be more than that. We're talking like 40 to 50,000 cubic yards of concrete, and that does not include any of the ancillary pours, driveways, buildings, all the rest of this stuff. I'm just absolutely flabbergasted by the number of concrete trucks that are going to be coming down our neighborhood. So that's my comment.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Sam.
understood.
Any other
Carry on.
Any other questions or comments? Thanks, Sam.
Benita, can you hear?
Yes,
me?
Paul. I can hear you, Paul.
Thank you. I have a question for Michelle. Well, actually, a two-part. One, a follow-up on Sam. Have they determined the number of trucks for concrete and construction? Average a day? And then for Michelle, I have a question. She mentioned that the formal land use application would be completed and submitted later this summer. Does she have a later date? Like, are we talking August, September, July, end of July, or those two items? Thank you very much for the opportunity to ask.
Okay, well, I see, before we get to you, Michelle, because I know that one question was for John, and then we've already started the concrete question. So John, do you have any idea about the number of trucks that it will take? and how long?
We've done the calculations.
Oh, we can't hear you.
Actually, the truck question was for Mr. Johnson.
Yeah, so
trying to answer.
the concrete trucks themselves, I mean, that is a significant amount of trucks, but there's going to be a lot of other trucks as well. And that's something that we all need to consider and keep in mind. I mean, there's aggregate trucks, there's delivery trucks, and et cetera. Concrete trucks for sure are going to be significant, and there's going to be a lot of concrete that comes onto the site. We've done some traffic studies with some peaking studies where we overlay the anticipated number of trucks that'll be visiting the site with the schedule to see how that all plays out. And that information, I believe, is available. I'd have to lead on Dave or look to Dave or Michelle to know where that report is right now, but that information is out there. I think. Dave, Michelle?
Dave isn't here. We just have Michelle today. I think all that we might have is the early estimates. I don't know what we have that's updated. Do you have some thoughts on that, Michelle?
Yeah, I mean, we do have the early estimates of truck traffic, and I don't remember what those are off the top of my head. And as John mentioned, the contractor will be, as part of their construction planning, be putting together.
And I don't know why, but my phone keeps dropping my audio, so I'm gonna have to try to join again.
But the contractor will be putting together, as part of their construction planning and cost estimating, an estimate of the number of truck trips for concrete and other trucks that are required for construction. We have done, as John mentioned, some traffic analysis to make sure we don't have a significant impact on traffic in the area, and we can provide some more information on that in the future as we have some better information available. And then what was the second question?
The second question was about when we were submitting our land use application. And I just want to note too that I put in the chat what our early estimates were, and that was 116,000 truck trips over the span of 4 to 5 years. So I think I'm not sure if that's the most recent number we have, but I'm sure we can look into that to see if the contractors have got any better estimates. But as far as the land use application, we got there first.
Yeah, and I would say, yes, Benita, that's the best information we have to share at this point in time today. And then in terms of our land use application, no, we don't have a specific date yet on when we'll be submitting that, but I think August, September timeframe is certainly probably within the realm of possibility. It's a big application, and it's taking some time to pull it together.
This is Jan Edmondson. Is that the same for Clackamas County land application as well?
No, the Clackamas County land use application will be a separate application, and
Right.
it will be submitted likely later this year. Since we've revised our raw water pipeline routes, our work in Clackamas County has been significantly reduced. So we're waiting till a little bit later to submit that application.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, any other questions or comments?
This is Jan Edmondson again. I believe I saw on the slide that Mr. Johnson was talking about road improvements and coordinating that with the county. And I'm kind of wondering what does that look like? What kind of road improvements are you talking about?
So road improvements, I think that's probably my question.
Mhm.
I mean, Carpenter Lane right now, I think everybody that knows Carpenter Lane understands that Carpenter Lane really isn't a great road. We're going to look to improve that to make that a better surface, potentially a little bit wider for truck turning and et cetera. And we also anticipate that it's possible that the county may ask us to improve other intersections around that we may be using if that's necessary. So those are the potential road improvements we were talking about earlier.
Thank you, because we do have on on a lot of our side roads that your trucks would be coming from, we do have a lot of potholes out here. There's some very bad roads, especially on the Multnomah County side. So just thought I'd make that comment. Thank you.
Yeah, understood. Thank you.
Just one follow-up on the road for Mr. Johnson. I noted in your slide that you had alternate route off Bluff Road to the project. Yeah, proposed second access. Now, is that, what kind of improvement do you need there and what kind of land use or submittals to the county do you need you there? And when do you anticipate those will go into the county?
I think Michelle kind of addressed the question about, the land use application for Clackamas County, because that's the only real work that we're going to do in Clackamas County at this point in time.
The second access?
The gravel, the surface right now is proposed to be gravel. We may choose to, obviously do something better, because obviously it goes right by the school and it's going to be dusty potentially. So we would want to make sure that that dust was maintained and, that we kept our erosion control.
Oh, you accidentally went on mute there for a second, John.
So I guess I was just on mute.
So the proposed second access isn't going to be used for these concrete trucks and hauling away the excess soil on the property? Because I would think you'd need something more than just gravel.
Welcome to Zoom. Enter your meeting ID followed by pound. You have not entered any numbers. Please re-enter your
Okay,
meeting
I think
ID
John
followed
is
by pound.
getting set up there. Yes, again, he is trying to get back in. I think he lost his audio. Technology. So your question though, Paul, is if we would be using that second access for concrete trucks and other trucks. Is that correct, Paul?
Correct. It seems like
Yes.
those would be very heavy loads that maybe, gravel sub-base wouldn't be adequate unless of course it went down for several feet.
Yeah. I'll let John connect back, but I do know that they are planning to use both accesses for construction. So the proposed second access is specifically a construction access. It will be a little bit different for the permanent access. But for the second access, they do anticipate having construction traffic going down both of those access points. John, can you hear us now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, so Paul had a question about the second access and how much it would be used for construction access. We were using the concrete trucks would be coming through that area as well. And he was wondering if the gravel would be sufficient enough to handle that kind of traffic.
Yeah, I think the gravel would be adequate for the time being. The concrete trucks I anticipate will probably come in off of Carpenter Lane potentially, because most of the concrete work will be closer to that area. The secondary access is probably going to be used mainly for spoil export, I would imagine. But this is some, I'm surmising these from the plans that the contractors have put together. So that's yet to be seen. But I think probably, if I was to guess, concrete will come in Carpenter potentially, and trench spoils, site spoils, excess soil will go off the secondary access.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Paul, for that question. Does anyone else have any questions?
Yes. Yeah. Okay, we've just been talking about concrete here. Let's talk about the low boys that are going to be bringing in huge excavation equipment. Let's talk about the trucks bringing in the rebar for the concrete. There's going to be a lot of that. We're talking weight. Have we got state weight standards on these local roads? If we got state weight limits that need to be addressed? Could you talk about that?
John, did you hear that question?
I did hear the question, yes. And obviously any truck or traffic or vehicle or whatever that we have on the road will have to comply with state standards and state requirements. If overweight permits, over length or oversized permits will all have to be applied for and obtained. But generally speaking, everything will have to be obviously per the rules of the road.
Thank you, John. But just let me ask, could you give me a ballpark figure of the load limit on Carpenter Lane right now?
Right now, the load limit on Carpenter Lane is pretty minimal, and that's why we believe we'll have to improve it to make sure that it's adequate for the needs of the project.
Pretty minimal means I can barely drive my little Toyota pickup over it. So, okay, thank you for that.
All right, any other questions? You can say them out loud, raise your hand, you can type them in the chat. All right. And we'll slowly move the slides back to the end. The question slide, any? Just give me a few minutes, or not a few minutes, maybe like a minute, just to think, to see if there's anything else you want to ask, anything you want to tell us about
I have a
conditions.
question.
Hi, Gabby. Is that how you say your
Yes,
name, Gabby?
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
It's the question related to the 5G telecommunications tower that will be there. Who will be giving the permit for that? Are you applying in Clackamas County or Multnomah County? What agency is involved in that?
Anita, you want me to?
Yes, I was just going to say Michelle.
Communications tower that is going in at the site is not for cellular service. It is for data communications for the Water Bureau's facilities. So it's not for 5G service, but the permitting for that is through Multnomah County as part of our land use application.
What agency will give the permit for that?
It will be, Multnomah County will provide their land use approval for that.
Mm-hmm. And I don't understand why this plant will need such a big tower, because we have internet everywhere.
I think what Michelle was saying is that this isn't necessarily for internet. Is that right, Michelle?
Correct. So we have multiple communication routes that we use to transfer data between our different sites. And so that is what the communications tower is needed. We use radio and microwave, and then also fiber as well, but all of those are needed to support our communications.
What kind of communications are you talking about then?
It is primarily data that gets transferred between our sites that is related to operations of our facilities.
And so it won't be used for cell phone use?
Correct.
Or TV or anything like that? It's not for internet?
Correct.
Okay, and what agency will study like the risk factor for these microwaves?
So the county has specific requirements we have to meet in terms of communications towers and the risk and associated with those, and we will have to meet all of those as part of our land use criteria. And so we have not only internal staff, but also consultants that we have hired to support that work.
And what are these requirements that you have to fulfill?
I don't know all of them off of the top of my head, but I do, or in detail. That's not entirely my area of expertise, but there are specific Multnomah County Code requirements around communication towers, and I'm sure we could point you to those on the county's website if given a little time to track that down.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
So we can certainly do that.
And I just want to add, like, there are major health concerns. There's not enough like study available for how severely people's health here in the neighborhood is going to be affected by microwave radiation.
Right. Well,
So no matter what requirements there would be, there is a huge health risk.
we
And
will.
enough people in hospitals already.
Okay. I know that
Also, the wildlife is majorly impacted by that, the birds, the insects. And it doesn't look attractive. This is a tourist destination.
the site is a tourist destination.
No, the area here,
Oh, the
people
area.
come because it's beautiful nature. They don't come to see a microwave tower. They come here to get away from the cities and radiation, and they want to be here to be healthy.
And we will be doing our best to screen the tower on the site, but we do also have a communications tower currently at our Lusted Hill facility, which is just north of the site.
Why don't you use that one?
Because it's we need an additional tower at the facility once it comes online.
Because you need higher, I don't know, you need a stronger tower than that at Lusted.
No, it's related to the proximity of the facility to the tower itself.
And so the data this tower will monitor are related to the water that comes down from the mountain.
It's related to our process and at the filtration facility, and the data that is collected there and shared across our system to inform our operations.
Okay, when you say that, like, you refer to the chemicals that will be stored on the land?
No, it's
Chemicals that are being injected into the water?
it is related to the operations of our facility. So I'm trying to think of maybe a practical example. So, you know, for example, we need to communicate between our reservoir sites and the level of water that might be in one of our reservoirs in our facility, so that
Yes.
we can make sure that our reservoirs stay full of water.
Yeah, and you can't use your cell phones and computers to do that?
We cannot.
And I know that issue of the look of the tower was a concern that we've heard early on, and that's one of the reasons that it's in the position that it is, that we've designed it to be within the trees or along that tree line to help mask the appearance of that.
Hmm. Well, that doesn't help the radiation, but I had another question, if
Sure.
that's okay.
Yeah.
Like you added like in the beginning when you started this process, you talked about like reducing the lead level by using chloramine. I have lately heard like you used soda ash and something else. And is that correct that there's no chloramine being added?
You take that, Michelle.
Yeah, so we currently treat our water with chloramines, and we'll continue to do that in the future when the filtration facility is online. And then we recently brought our corrosion control facility at Lusted Hill online, and that uses soda ash and carbon dioxide to increase the pH and alkalinity of our water to make it less corrosive so that lead does not leach out of certain home plumbing materials. And so that treatment will continue at the new filtration facility as well once it is brought online.
So the drinking water we get here currently has chloramine,
Correct.
and you intend to keep that, even
Correct.
though it is known that it causes cancer?
We monitor our water quality carefully for disinfection byproducts that are regulated by the EPA, and we meet or exceed all current regulations related to disinfection byproducts.
And chloramine cannot be removed from the water, even if you boil the water, and most water filters do not filter it out. And it is cancer causing. Why would you add something that causes cancer to our drinking water when the water comes pure from the mountain?
So disinfection of our water is required, and we do that with chlorine, and then add ammonia to form chloramines to form a longer lasting disinfectant in our distribution system. And we have to do that to make sure that there is a chlorine residual at customers' taps, and that is a regulatory requirement that we have to meet and is a common water treatment practice.
And that requirement comes from the federal government?
Correct.
And are you giving feedback to the federal government that this is causing cancer and the community here does not want it? And Portland doesn't want it? Nobody wants it?
Yes, we have not heard that feedback in general.
I have said it repeatedly, and I'm saying it again. It is a health risk. It is causing disturbance in the body. Are you not worried? You will be drinking this water too.
I am not worried because we meet all of our drinking water regulations, and
The
so
regulations won't make you healthy, but drinking pure water is the number one necessity for being healthy.
Well, that is some good feedback. I know that our water treatment folks have done a lot of work to try to get the best treatment as possible to make sure that our water is safe and healthy for everyone to drink. And we will continue to do that. If you have comments about the safety of the water and concerns about chlorine, it definitely would be best to go to the EPA to express those concerns and have possibly get the regulations changed. But as far as we know, that the regulations that we are following is what's going to keep our water safe and healthy
Then
for
I would
everyone.
encourage you and everybody to research the health effect of chloramine. That
make sure
should
that
be the
people,
first thing before you add anything to drinking water. That should be the number one concern, that it is healthy for everyone who will drink it.
that is certainly our number one concern. And that is one of the reasons that we're building this filtration facility. And we have the current treatment that we do. Is there anything else, Gabby, that you have any comments
I
or questions
probably
about?
have 100 more questions because this project just raises all of these questions. And at the
Understand.
time, like when you did the test drillings in the neighborhood, we live like at the headwater of Johnson Creek, and it was the time when it was raining incredibly much. Suddenly there was no more water in the beginning of Johnson Creek. It dried out in a rainy season. Where did that water go?
When was this?
And before, like when there were drillings, other wells of farmers in the area dried out. But the nurseries here depend on reliable water.
Yes, we understand that. Was there a particular time you were saying though that water
I don't
wasn't
remember the
available?
exact date, but it was when, while you were doing the drillings in the area.
Well, certainly if people run out of water while we're doing some work, we definitely want to know that. So I would encourage anybody that is experiencing that while we're doing any work out there to please give us a call at the time. We definitely want to look into that.
Yeah, and you know, there were like environmental specialists walking around, and like they also have concerns for the animals, for everything.
Yes. Any other questions or comments? I mean, you also have,
Personally,
sorry?
yeah, thank you for answering my questions.
Okay. Aubrey, can you go to that next slide? We're not gonna close it out yet, but I just want to make sure that you have our contact information. So if you do have other questions, you can reach out through our comment section on our website or through an email. We're happy to get you the information that you need. Anybody else have any questions or comments as we look to close this out?
Yeah. Sam Dyack here.
Hi, Sam.
John, would you call me at some point? We can chat one-on-one.
Absolutely.
I'm home most of the time. I'm an old guy. So let's talk.
I've got your number and you've got mine.
I do. Thanks for your help in the past. That's all I've got.
All right, thank you, Sam. Anybody else? Anything for the good of the order? Well, thank you, everybody, for joining us this evening, and we appreciate hearing your concerns. I'll make sure that project team is aware of those concerns. And this brings us to the end of our meeting, but we're planning our next information session for October 13th at 6 o'clock. But if you have any questions in the meantime, please feel free to send us an email, use the comment box on our website. And otherwise, we look forward to seeing you in October. Thanks.